So it looks like Donald Trump is now pausing tariffs on Canada for 30 days at least, which is, I guess, good news, but you know what? Fuck it. We should still boycott American products and buy Canadian stuff. I still want to do a deep dive on this whole tariff thing, though, because the reasons Donald Trump is saying he was putting tariffs on us are all bullshit, and it's pretty easy to prove. And I think there's three kind of behind the scenes scenarios that really explain why he's actually doing this. So first, let's get into the things that are fake. This tariff, it's not about drugs or fentanyl like Donald Trump claims. And this is pretty easy to show because Canada supplies less than 1% of the fentanyl that makes it into the United States. In fact, there was a whole 43 pounds of fentanyl seized at the Canadian border in a year, and there's 21,000 pounds seized at the Mexican one. And even to give Mexico their credit, that's down 20% over last year. So this problem coming from Canada is very, very minor, and even coming from Mexico, it's already being tackled. It's also not about borders and migrants. Now, last year, there was 19,000 arrests at the border, Canadian-US border, and about 200,000 quote-unquote encounters. Now, encounters means people, maybe, who accidentally cross the border somewhere while they're hiking or something. It's not actual people trying to cross the border illegally. Mexico, on the other hand, their count is in the millions. So why Canada is being singled out for border security really does not make any sense. Combine this with the fact that Canada has already promised to increase spending by $1.5 billion and has already increased security at our borders, and Donald Trump went and said it doesn't matter, saying that there's nothing we can do to stop the tariffs. But if there's nothing we can do, it means his reasons for them aren't actually real. It's also not about trade deficits and surpluses like he keeps claiming, because first of all, that's fucking nonsense. All that means is one country buys more from another country than vice versa. It doesn't mean you're subsidizing a country. And believe it or not, Donald Trump actually has a business degree from Wharton, even if his professors called him one of the dumbest goddamn students they ever had. On top of this, Trump has actual smart people around him who can explain this to him. But even then, if you don't want to believe this, Canada actually has a surplus with the United States if you exclude oil, meaning we sell the US more stuff than they sell us if you exclude oil. And these tariffs had a 25% tariff on everything, but only a 10% tariff on oil. Meaning, if he really cared about balancing the surplus and deficit, he would put a bigger tariff on the thing that's actually causing the trade deficit. Except he didn't. So it's not about that. Now he's saying it's about banks and agriculture. Keeps changing, see, which also means it's all bullshit. Except Canada imports 57% of its agricultural and food imports from the United States, which means we are already buying lots of shit from their agriculture industry. So it's not that. Banks? Maybe. Canada has a lot of regulation on our banks, which is why our banks survived the 2008 crash without bailouts, and America's didn't. So fuck their banks, we definitely don't want them here. So what is this actually about? Well, I see three realistic options based on all the evidence we have available to us. Number one, which I've said for a long time, is he's just working for Russia. Now, we know both from the Foundation of Geopolitics books by Alexander Dugin what Russia's plan is. We also know from tons of intelligence from both our intelligence agencies and other countries that Russia is perpetrating a massive disinformation and psyops propaganda campaign on Western nations to stoke division and try to weaken our democracies. We also know from British intelligence that there's a dossier of compromat material that Russia has on Donald Trump. We also know Donald Trump has publicly sided with Putin over US intelligence services. He's taken closed door meetings with Russian ambassadors where he didn't allow official transcript recorders to be present, which means he's hiding something. And to be frank, every decision Donald Trump has made since taking office has destabilized America and benefited Russia. So I think the probability of this being part of the equation is pretty high. But it's not the only part, and the others are kind of just as scary. Number two is that he actually does want to invade Canada and Mexico and Panama. Now, tariffs out of nowhere at this extent historically have only ever been used as the opening salvo in an economic war. They are designed to weaken the country they are being targeted against, so they are less able to respond to annexation or invasion. And considering Donald Trump is an egomaniac who seems to idolize dictators like Putin or Kim Jong un or President Xi, this is maybe what he wants. He wants to join that club. It also fits the theme with him threatening Mexico and him designating Mexican drug cartels as terrorist organizations, because doing that allows the US, according to US law at least, not international law, to invade Mexico to fight those terrorist groups. We also know him and Pete Hegseth have actually drafted up invasion plans for northern Mexico. I've covered that in other videos. He's also now threatening military action against Panama. So when an abuser tells you they're going to hurt you, you should probably believe them. So when Donald Trump starts threatening Canada like this, like he is these other countries, maybe we should believe him. Plus, Canada has the largest freshwater reserves in the world, and we have like 30% of the potash in the world, and all of these precious minerals that the United States desperately needs for their national defense. It kind of just means, you know what? This might be the precursor to them actually wanting to co-opt, invade, or annex Canada. The next one is that maybe this is just all a pump and dump grift, a scheme to get rich, and I would not put this past any of them. We know already that wealthy people aren't really affected by recessions and inflation like the rest of us, because all their money is up in assets, and when a recession or something happens, stock markets drop, they can just buy up shit on the cheap and then get more money when it goes back up. And Donald Trump's tariffs, or threat of tariffs, have caused massive drops in the stock market, but even more than that, massive drops in the cryptocurrency market. You can look at this graph. In less than 60 hours, Bitcoin lost $760 billion of value. And we know Musk and Trump have been big on Bitcoin and hyping up cryptocurrency, so why would they do something that tanks that market? Well, because then they can buy a whole shitload of it at a reduced price, end tariffs, and watch it all go back up. Maybe Elon Musk gets to be the world's first trillionaire. And finally, the fourth reason, maybe it just comes down to sheer pettiness. We know Melania and Ivanka made them doe eyes at old Justin Trudeau there. Maybe that just pissed Donald Trump off that much. That and that handshake game that he decisively lost. This is a guy who decades later still circles fucking pictures of his fingers to send to Vanity magazine for calling him a small-fingered vulgarian. The motherfucker's just that petty.